one item on the agenda, and that is Senate nomination number 4, William Marlden Bill Billingsley, and that is for the Charter School Author Award, term effective immediately and ending on August 31st, 2022. Is Mr. Billingsley here? Okay. How are you? We'd like to hear from you, if that's okay. If you could come over here to the podium and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you think you're qualified to be on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Billingsley. I'm a retired businessman. I owned and operated a home health care company here in Mississippi for 15 years or so. I own and operate. I'm now, my wife and I spend our days rescuing abused and abandoned horses, so I'm working a lot harder now than I did before. But I'm really pleased and honored to have been nominated for this position on the Charter School Authorizer Board, and I think that I can do a good job because I have a very good background in education. I went through public schools all the way through college. I'm a big believer in public schools. I'm a big supporter of public schools. At the same time, I recognize that sadly, we have failures from time to time in public school, and we need alternatives. I think charter schools is an important alternative, and it's an important tool in the box that we can use to improve public education. I've had
Anything besides traffic tickets?
Okay,
that we
then
should
the
be aware
answer to
of?
that should be no.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. Does anybody have any questions? Senator Jordan?
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Jordan, could you speak into the microphone so we can hear?
Thank you. Let me ask you a question. It's Mr. Billingsley.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Billingsley. Do you think is the jury still out on charter schools? Excuse me. It's kind of a new concept in a way than public schools. What are the advantages they have over public schools?
Well, I think charter schools have a little bit of an advantage over public schools in that they can have smaller class sizes. They can go. They don't have quite as many restrictions on who they can hire to teach, and they can go after people who have specialized skills that are really needed for a particular area or a particular district. And I think they can move a little faster. I think some of the issues that are plaguing the public school system today didn't happen overnight, and they're not going to be fixed overnight. I think everything we can do to fix public schools, we need to try to do. But it's going to be a long process, and during that process, there are going to be kids that are going to fall through the cracks. That's what charter schools can do. Charter schools can step in and pick up those kids that to wait another 3 or 4 years for their public school to make the improvements they need to make is going to leave them out. So I'm hopeful that charter schools can fill that gap. It's a relatively new concept in Mississippi, but not in other places in the country. The charter schools have been used successfully all over the place. Florida, New Orleans. There are plenty of places that have had success with charter schools, and I think Mississippi can do the same thing.
So as far as Mississippi charter schools, the jury's still out on them. Public schools, you say you get better teachers, you say? Is that?
You know, Senator, I think the better teachers is maybe one of the things that we need to work toward, but I think it's such a broad issue, and there are so many variables in the public school system. I think the biggest one is just poverty.
Is what?
Poverty.
Poverty?
Poverty in the districts.
Whose fault would that be?
I don't know whose fault that is.
Somebody knows. If you're going to be ahead of a school district, you
I
better
don't
know.
Maybe I don't understand the question. Are you asking me if I know who causes poverty?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't.
I think we all know, we just don't put the resources there to eradicate it. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I'm sorry.
We all know, but we don't put the resources there to eradicate the poverty.
That's certainly.
So we both know now, don't we?
Well, again, that's beyond the purview of the charter board, and I'm probably not as well prepared to have a long discussion about poverty as I ought to have been. I apologize.
Well, I was born in it, I understand it.
Yes, sir, I know.
I just wondered, I know it's a new concept for us here in the Deep South, but if public schools the public schools, you remember, the dragnet. When you agree with that, it has to take everybody.
Yes.
Charter schools do not.
Well, charter schools are also public schools.
I know, but you can choose, you know. But
Well, maybe.
who they want to accept, then public schools must take them. So that's why I call it public schools a dragnet. It has to take everybody.
I understand, and I
as a
agree with that.
result of that, they get some who some just don't fit in.
That's exactly
But to
right.
say that charter schools are better than public schools, they may have. I have to disagree with you on that. As a whole, if public schools got the resources they needed, they would do just as well, probably supersede. But you say you can find better teachers. I don't understand that either.
I apologize. I don't think I said we find better teachers. I think we can make all kinds of improvements to the public school system, and you all are the ones that do that. The charter school board is going to do what we can do to help the charter schools, and I think that's an important part of the public school system, is trying to have good solid charter schools for people to use as alternatives to failing public schools.
Well, I agree with you that, but you have to realize that public schools are the dragnet. It has to take everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Jordan. Senator Wiggins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question. One of the highlights, and actually I'd say one of the hallmarks of the charter school law, is that when a charter school is not performing and doesn't meet the metrics in 5 years, that they can be voted to be closed down. And my question to you is, I want to know that you are willing to make that vote upon a charter school not performing like it should be, and not, for lack of a better description, giving in to, pleas from that school or whoever it may be, just give us one more chance kind of thing. I just want to know that you're willing to make that vote if and when that comes.
Yes, I am, absolutely. One of the reasons why I will be, it won't be any problem for me to make that vote is that I believe the Charter School Authorizer Board also has a role of helping those schools so that they don't get to that point. We can watch what's going on in the charter schools before it comes time for them to get their contract renewed, and we should be able to apply, give them the help they need to keep them from getting into that situation. But if they do, I would absolutely vote to not renew the contract.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. However, will that, if you as a charter school board member have gone on and working with these schools to try to get in there and then they still don't perform, are you going to be conflicted to make that vote?
No, I will not. I'll make that vote and sleep just fine that night.
Okay. And do you know the reason for that provision within the law? I know you're not a policymaker, but
I would assume it's for just what you described. If we get to a point with a charter school who was initially approved for a charter and that they don't fulfill the provisions of the contract, they shouldn't be renewed.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Wiggins. Senator Norwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Billingsley, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You are saying that you're aware that you have unsuccessful charter schools as you have unsuccessful public
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And some of those unsuccessful charter schools are in Mississippi as well as Louisiana and other parts of the United States, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, and you are aware that the playing field is not level between the public schools, your traditional public schools, and the charter schools in terms of the allowances that's granted to the charter schools. The charter schools have more leverage or more freedom to do perform academic.
Yes, sir, I'm aware of that.
So in that, the charter schools were set up to be obviously successful, but they have, in my estimation, they have basically failed in terms of what they were set up to do. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure that I can agree with that, sir. I think that we have a system whereby the charter schools can be, and we can decide. The state determines whether they get a grade and then whether they fail or they pass. And I think that that system seems to be working. The real strength, as it were, on charter schools comes from what Senator Wiggins just discussed. When it comes time for them to renew their contract. And that's where the board can very carefully decide whether they've met the provisions of that contract or not.
Well, we have unsuccessful charter schools here in the city of Jackson, and that has created some challenges. But nonetheless, in terms of as far as education, and I'm not a proponent of charter schools, but I support education that's provided for our children. And it's not an us versus them. And so you are committed. You know, as you said, that the public schools are not, the public schools are not as good, if you will, if you may, as the charter schools. But you do support the overall concept of public education to make sure our children receive the best opportunity for an adequate a successful education, do you not?
Yes, sir. I support that very strongly, and I don't agree with you that charter schools necessarily are better than public schools. I think there are plenty of public schools that are better than any of our charter schools. I think that the model that we have now, where charter schools are only operating in the failing in the D and F districts, is a good way to do it. You don't see. I don't think that there's like I said before, the charter schools are a necessary tool, in my opinion, in the box that we use to try to provide the best public education we can provide. I don't know that tool needs to be used in the A and B school districts. I think those schools are doing fine. Those parents maybe don't need the alternatives that the parents in the D and F districts need.
Well, for the benefit of this conversation, I'll end it, but I'll end by disagreeing with you on that, but by the same token, as long as we can agree to the concept that we both are interested in the education that's best for our children to go ahead and become successful individuals in.
Yes, sir. We agree completely on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Wood. Any other questions? Lyndon.
Thank you, Mr. Billingsley. So, if I understand you, you think charter schools should be in the D and F, possibly C, school districts?
I think the charters need to be in the areas that they're needed the most, and right now that's the D and F.
Would you be a proponent of not letting charter schools into the A and B school districts?
I'm not sure that that's a question that I would need to answer as a charter school board member. I think that's a question more appropriate for the legislature. But to give you my opinion, yes, I would be in favor of charter schools staying out of the A and B districts unless the districts really wanted to put one in. For example, let's say you've got a successful school district, Petal, Clinton, Madison, pick one, and they decide they want to form a charter school for a specialty, arts, math and science, form their own charter school. I wouldn't be against that at all. I would be against a charter school company coming in and saying, we want to run up to Madison County and open up a charter school there and take advantage of all those people in that affluent school district. We don't need them there. We need them in the districts that we need them.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Hill, do you have any questions?
Yes. And Mr. Billingsley just touched on the point that I was going to bring up. We've heard discussion in here about, you know, are charter schools better or are they not, or do they have more advantages over public schools? And one point that I wanted to make and ask Mr. Billingsley, and he just touched on this, Mississippi Code 3728.5 and 3728.15 allows any public school in the state to self-convert to a charter if they so desire. So that we have that authority through either the majority of the parents and teachers signing the petition or a majority of the board. So according to current law, any school district that wants to be a charter can self-convert to a charter. So that opportunity is there for them if they want it. And, you know, if the charter school has more advantages, then my question would be, would the reason more schools have not taken advantage of this would be maybe because they could be shut down in 5 years? Maybe? Is that a legitimate?
I guess anything's possible. I think that, and again, I'm just going off the top of my head, I think that a lot of the A-rated and B-rated school districts are like Senator Jordan said, are waiting to see kind of how this matures.
Exactly. They have no need for it.
Have no need.
They have no need
right
for it, but the opportunity is already there, correct, for anybody if they want to self-convert
correct.
without an act of the legislature, because we've given them that autonomy through those statutes, and that's been there since before I was ever elected. But my question to you is, you will faithfully conduct yourself according to whatever Mississippi charter school law is to fulfill your duties on that board, and you can answer that faithfully, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I will. I will faithfully discharge those duties.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Hill. Any other questions? Senator Jordan?
You will admit that charter schools can cherry pick the students, but we
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Will you agree?
Senator Jordan, hold on 1 second. Senator Wiggins?
My point of inquiry is this is a nomination, not a debate on the policy of charter schools versus public schools. And it seems to me like we're getting into that, and this is a nomination, and I think Senator Hill's question got to that, and that's what we're here for.
Chairman, I think I have a right to ask this person who wants to be confirmed to a board question reference to public and charter schools, and that's what I'm asking. So I don't know what the gentleman talking about over there.
May I address Senator Jordan?
Yep, absolutely.
Senator Jordan, the statute that we put in there says that if more students want to attend that charter school than they have room for, it has to go by lottery.
I understand all of that.
Mr. Chairman, to my point of inquiry, that's on the debate. We're here on a nomination to determine if Mr. Billingsley is fit to serve on that board and meets the qualifications.
And I would agree, Senator Wiggins. Senator Jordan, and remember, the law is the law as it stands, and we're here to determine whether or not Mr.
I
Billingsley
was just asking a question.
let's try to keep it, Senator Jordan, let's try to keep it
Just
to
asking a
the
question.
nomination
Because
as to
I'm
whether or not
primarily
he's
concerned about all
qualified.
this, the yoke of
Senator Jordan, if you
ignorance
want to ask
being-
your question, feel free to do so, and keep it limited, if possible, to whether he is qualified or not to serve as a member of the charter school
May
board.
I ask a question or may I not?
Absolutely. You are recognized to ask your question.
All right. You agree with me that charter schools allow people to cherry pick?
No, sir. I don't agree with that. As Senator Hill said, it's done by lottery.
I know, but it does allow it. I don't care what it's about. That does happen, cherry picking. But you have to realize if we want to lift the yoke of poverty and ignorance in this state, we're going to have to raise the bottom up, and that's what public schools do. or if you put the resources there, I guarantee you that we can lift that yoke of poverty and ignorance. If you put the resources, but the resources never go to big public schools in certain areas for various reasons. So that's all I'm saying.
I
People
understand.
need choices. I'm just asking, just telling you what the situation is, in my opinion.
What is the question? I'm sorry, I missed
The
the question.
question that you've already said you didn't believe it, that they don't have a chance to cherry pick, but if you select here and there and not send them over here, you cherry picking, in my opinion. That's all I want to know.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr.
I
Chair.
renew my point of inquiry.
Thank you, Senator Jordan. I appreciate your comments. And Senator Norwood, I'll let you ask questions once before. Let's keep it
Mr. Chairman,
tightly controlled to whether he is qualified to serve on this board, please. Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, is this, I guess this question is to you.
Speaking to the
I
mic.
guess this question to you, Mr. Chairman, is this a fulfillment of a term?
This is the initial appointment for him to serve on the board for 3 years.
It's not a replacement,
It's his initial appointment, correct, yes.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. I got one or two questions. Mr. Billingsley, is there anything that is in your background that is not in your background investigation before us that would be discredited upon this body, state of Mississippi?
No, sir.
And you feel you're competent and can serve and faithfully execute the duties that
Yes,
you
sir.
are asked to do? Okay, I have no further questions at this time. I'll entertain a motion for advice and consent, if that is so. Senator Hill has made that motion. This time, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Billingsley.
Thank you.
Your
And thank you,
nomination
members of the
before-
committee.
I'd like to inform the committee, we had one other member of the authorizer board nominated, Dr. Jean Young. She informed our office, actually Christie, the other day, that she has withdrawn her name due to personal reasons and so forth, so she will not be coming for this committee. So that is it for the Charter School Board. So I'll entertain a motion for rise and report.
Rise and report.
Thank you.